Well, welcome to USD 435 update, and we are January of 2017 now, and we're back at school. We started yesterday. The weather is nice and brisk right now, so we're cooling down. It is winter time. I'm here with Mr. Tom Schwartz. He is the principal at McKinley Elementary, and a month or so ago we had the opportunity to go to our nation's capital in Washington, D.C. and receive a Blue Ribbon School Award for McKinley Elementary. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Mr. Schwartz has been invited to visit with the Kansas State Department of Education, and that will occur, I believe, next week. Mm-hmm. And the question that they've asked Mr. Schwartz to answer is, what sets McKinley School away from some of the other schools, possibly in the state or the nation, and why is it that we are a high-achieving school? And I thought, well, that would be a great question to start this interview off with, is from asking Mr. Schwartz, what sets McKinley above and beyond, and why are we a high-achieving school here at McKinley Elementary?
Well, thank you, Dr. Guy. After that
other than having a great principal.
Yeah. Well, great staff. That's what does that.
That does too. Yep.
But yeah, that was quite an honor. I mean, that was something. Yep. But now that means you have to live up to it too.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That's a lot of stress.
We got high expectations
high
now,
expectations. Don't we? But it was quite an experience. And you said that the State Department of Education has invited not only myself, but the other 3 schools that also received the award in Kansas to meet with the state board next Tuesday during their regular meeting to talk to them about what did make our schools a high-achieving school to be able to receive that award. The thing I think I'm going to talk about down there, since I just found out yesterday about this, what I thought of immediately was about the behavior and all of the work that we've done on trying to be a positive behavior intervention school because of all the things that research has been saying lately. It's so important to be a positive whenever there's behavior situations going on, to be positive instead of being negative, because that doesn't help solve the problem. So I think that's really what we've done well here the last 2-3 years, really working on that hard. By no means are we to where we want to be, or are we perfect, but we're getting closer to what helps us help kids perform better academically, because they don't have all the other behavior issues being the most important thing in their life when they're here. So
when you talk about a positive behavior intervention school, can you give some specifics on when you would visit with a child about a positive behavior?
Well, we have the ticket system that we use, and whenever we see students, first we had to lay out what the expectations were at McKinley. And we have a McKinley expectations matrix. It's right there on the wall. It's on the wall in every classroom. It's a big banner that's in our front hallway. The kids, first of all, have to know what we expect from them, and at different places in the building. What's expected of them at recess? What's expected of them in the classroom? On the bus, what's expected of them? And when they know what's expected, then they know what we expect from them. It's not, hey, we don't catch them doing the wrong thing, we catch them doing the right thing. Right. And when we see them doing those expectations, where they're being responsible or respectful or their best self in one of those areas, we go up to them, we give them a ticket, and then the most important part is we tell them what they were doing that was positive. That's something that a lot of times we don't do. We might say to somebody, hey, good job, Dr. Guy. And
good
you're
job
going,
on what?
Yeah, you're saying, well, what did that do?
Yeah.
And that's something that maybe in the past we used to do a lot. And I think that's something we've kind of turned the corner on here, is we go up and we say, thank you for walking in today and being quiet as you went down the hall. Now you know That was
Exactly.
important. Before that, you were kind of guessing, well, did they like what I was wearing? What did I do that was so good? And so that's the first thing that has to happen. The expectations have to be there, and then you have to, when you see them doing the right thing, that's when you hit them with it. You don't wait until the student's doing something wrong and then say, and then reward that behavior. And that's something that's real important, for parents or anybody. I wish I'd known this when I was a parent. Instead of trying to make sure when I saw my children doing something wrong, I would then try to correct them. Well, make sure you correct them when they're doing the right thing. Then they're going to want to do that. They want to do the right thing. No kids want to do the wrong thing.
Right.
They just want attention. So that's a whole mindset that we've tried to change here at McKinley. It's not always easy.
Yeah.
It's the adults too. One of the things we found out in one of the surveys that we did after we started implementing this was the staff said that they were becoming more positive. It doesn't mean they were negative people before that, but what they're doing is they are looking for the positive things happening, and they're rewarding that. Instead of trying to put out fires, now we're trying to be proactive instead. And I think it makes a big difference in the atmosphere and how kids feel. They're not as on edge. And when you're not on edge, I think you can perform a little bit better.
Exactly.
Like when you're sitting in front of a TV camera.
Be on edge.
Yeah. So.
Well, you've collected a lot of tickets first semester, or distributed a lot of tickets.
Yeah, over 28,000 tickets that teachers have handed out.
So we've had 28,000 examples of when students are holding up to the right expectations.
Right.
That's pretty amazing. Right. So
that's one thing that we try to do. The kids then too, they can use those tickets how they want to use them. Once they get them, we have a behavior store out here that, and that doesn't mean I guess they go there to find good behavior. There's certain things they can purchase with those tickets, and it's a lot of school-related items like iPad cleaners and eraser tops and stress balls, because sometimes they like to use those too, not only the adults. Pencils, just a lot of things that are school-related, and they can purchase those with a certain amount of tickets. And they've already purchased almost 2,500 items with their tickets. The other thing that I know whenever I tell people around the state about our food deal, they really get impressed with that. The students can use 2 tickets to buy a can of food or a box of food from our behavior store, and then after they purchase those, we bring them down to the food bank, and we've already brought down close to 800 items of food just this school year. So those are tickets that students could be using to purchase things for themselves, but instead they're using them to purchase things for the community. And so we're pretty proud of that, and the kids really get into that too. So we're trying to also build that into what they do so that they're working for the community too. In fact, our pledge at the end says that they'll do the behaviors that are expected of them at school and in the Abilene community, because we want them to know that it's not just something to do here. There's expectations for them in the community so that they can do the right behaviors. So.
Well, and when you think about our social curriculum, when you do good things, you feel good. And then you just keep repeating that. You do more good things, you feel good. So that fits in with the expectations as well. And certainly buying cans of food for the food pantry is going to make you feel good.
Yes, it does. It's
and helping
quite a deal
someone
the way
else
they
in
feel
need.
about that. So, and how kids even buy things for each other. There's little certificates they can buy, and they can fill out a certificate that might say caring or responsible, and they can give those to other students. And it's kind of neat when you see kids doing that. You feel good that they're getting the right message. But again, that's what's so important, I think, for the community to know, for parents to know. And it's tough. You really do have to think about Do I want the positive behavior or the negative behavior? Because it is so easy to react to the negative behavior. But
I think we're built to look for the negative.
Yeah,
I think humans
so.
maybe that's the easier thing to do is to scan around and see what's not right with the world instead of what's right with the world.
Until you switch your thinking around. And now it's easier for us to reward the positive behavior because that's what we're looking for. So it's really how you're perceiving things and looking at things. So now it's becoming a lot easier to be looking for the positive things. So I just think that makes a more positive environment. And academically, if you can change behavior and make it a more positive place to be, then the academics become something that the kids can actually put their mind to. They're not worried about the other things. So I think that makes a big difference.
Very good. What else do you have for us here?
Well, we can. What I'm going to talk about next will be David Eichler.
Okay.
He is a consultant with a Project State, which is about behaviors. I think it'd be some good information to pass along too that we can talk about.
Okay. We'll be right back after this message.
Ride on into Riddle's Western Wear in Abilene for a great selection of jeans, boots, Western styles, and name brands for the working family. Riddle's Western Wear for the cowboy or cowgirl and all of us. Opening a child savings account, buying your first home, or planning your retirement? Everyone is welcome at Great Plains Federal Credit Union. Great Plains Federal Credit Union, placing people before profits.
Century Business Systems provides local Savin sales and service, competitive pricing, and simplified solutions for all of Abilene's copier and printer needs.
Midway Bar and Grill on Old Highway 40 is your local stop, offering fresh food and a great time. Open 6 days a week for lunch and dinner. Come in or call ahead today and try one of the best burgers in the area. West Plaza Country Mart, your friendly community grocery store. Now with online grocery shopping for home delivery or in-store pickup. Call, click, or stop in today. Be the belle of the ball when you shop Abilene Bridal and Formal Wear, offering elegant evening dresses and tuxedos for all occasions. Abilene Bridal and Formal Wear, where dreams come true.
All right, we are back and we are going to continue on our conversation about behavior. And one of the things that Mr. Schwartz and a couple of other USD 435 representatives participated in just this week, it was on Monday, a conference with a gentleman named David Eichler, and he is a behaviorist. And he has given us some information that we'd like to share with the community, and we are using this as we build our systems of support as well. So first of all, just talk a little bit about David and what he brings to the picture.
There were some of the principals here in the district went over last fall and heard David Eichler talk in person about brain development. And what early childhood and when children are young, what effect that has on their behaviors. And at that time, as we were listening to it, the people in the crowd over in Salina said, "Hey, we want you back to talk more about this." And so that's what Monday was about. And he's known across the nation. I mean, he's does a lot of work in this area, so we're really lucky that we have kind of an in with him. And he was talking a lot about trauma and how that affects children, and not only children, but as we become adults. I know in the fall he talked about things that happen to us as infants or before the age of 5 can change the way your body is set up for the rest of your life. It can change physical things such as cholesterol levels, your heart rate, all kinds of things can affect what happens to you just by what happens to you as a young child. And what he was talking to us about on Monday was it could be something that happened as an infant or 18 months old that we deal with right now in 2nd and 3rd grade. So it might not be a behavior you're seeing from the child right now that happened that morning before they came to school. It might be the way their brain is wired up now and the way they react to anything that's stressful, and it might cause a behavior reaction in them when they're at school now, such as yelling out or kicking or hitting. It's not because they want to do that. It's the only way that they know because of the way something might have affected them earlier in life. It's the only way their brain is wired for them to react to anything that has them on edge. And so,
didn't he give an example of a kitten? If you cover a kitten's eye when it's born for a couple of weeks, there may not be anything wrong with the eye or the kitten's brain.
Right.
But by covering it and not creating that part of the brain, when you take the cover off,
then
he can't see.
That eye, they're blind in that eye.
They're blind in that eye because of the developmental process between the eye and the brain.
Right, because at that time in that kitten's life, that part of the brain was developing. And since that eye was not being used, it wasn't developed. So that's the thing that we need to know too, or to work with, because it doesn't mean that you can't fix what's wrong, but just like anything, if it's not done at the right time, then it becomes harder as you get older, and that's as an adult when we try to learn something.
Yeah.
He talked about language. You know, when we were born, we could speak any kind of language we wanted. We were wired as we were developing that we could speak anything. But if we're here speaking only English, then
That's
the other
what we
parts of the
learned.
brain that would help us speak Spanish or French or anything, that's not developed in your brain, and so that's why it's so tough as an adult then to learn it.
And then you have an accent forever because that part of the brain
that's
isn't
what was
developed.
activated.
Yeah.
So all those things made a lot of sense when he was talking about them, but it also makes you think then too, and the thing that I'm going to talk with the staff is when children are reacting the way they do in the classroom, it is not at them. They just don't know how to react any differently. So we've got to be, we have to know that when there's a behavior issue, we have to be able to react to it in a way that doesn't escalate it. That's just like, you know, when you're dealing with a newborn child or a kitten or a dog, and you talk to them, it's always, oh, how are you? You know, that kind of thing. You use a high voice, and I just had a new granddaughter, and so,
So you've got lots of practice.
I don't talk like this. You know, you talk with that kind of baby voice, I guess, and it's because it's the way you use your voice and inflection so that they know that there's not a danger.
A threat or a danger.
A danger. And if you talk in a different way, then it can be perceived as a threat or a danger. And then if their brain wasn't developed to handle that, then that's when they might lash out because they don't know how else to deal with that. So really, really interesting stuff he was talking about. He talked about the ACEs study, which is something that I heard about a year ago, and we've talked about a lot down in our meetings when we're together as a administrative team. This ACEs study, it's the adverse childhood experiences. It was done by the National Center for Disease, and they looked at some trauma that can happen to you as an adult or as a child, and what it can do to affect your behavior and your brain development. And when they looked at the top 10 trauma issues, they are things like psychological abuse. The top 10 are psychological abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional neglect, physical neglect, loss of a parent for any reason. That can be divorce, that can be maybe serving in war for 18 months, because it's made me think of that too. Mother treated violently is one of the top 10. Substance abuse, mental illness in the home, criminal behavior in the household. Those are the top 10 areas of trauma. And if a child has 3 of those 10, they have an 85% likelihood of academic, behavior, or emotional challenges or problems in the rest of their life until they can get those fixed. That to me is an amazing and alarming figure to me
Oh, right.
on the importance of when the child is growing up. And that's why too, right now, there's so many struggles that families are going through, and we try to deal with that the best way we can here at school to help out. But there are just so many stressors that are involved with families now, and just trying to get through life, that some of these areas of trauma are there. So how can we best help those children when they come to school? That's a big challenge, but we're facing that more and more every year.
And so one of the ways we can address that is how we react to children when those stressors occur in their life,
Right.
and how they react to us. How do we as adults react back to those stressors?
Well, and there is a chart that he went over with us. It's the 5 stages of escalation, behavior escalation, and what that means is how escalation would be, how kids deal with stress. And again, if there was something that happened where their brain didn't develop the way it should have, they may have problems with just the simple things of trying to calm down using their breath, like some of us can. We might tell a child, hey, count to 10 or breathe deep, but that may not work for them. It might work for us, and a lot of times I kind of sit back and I go, just to relax. But for some, that doesn't work. But that might be the behavior that we have to teach children to be able to use and help them learn how to use that part. It might be natural for us, but it might not be for them. So learning how to do that is important. Movement, touch, and breathing are 3 areas that David Eichler said are so important to make sure that we try to deal with children who are having behavior issues where they're not under control. So that would be something good for everybody to know. When we're at rest, when everything's calm,
Right.
That's an easy thing to deal with. But when children go on alert for some reason, a quiet voice is so important. And that's something I'm still learning. And I've been in education 37 years. And I know when I was a teacher, and also when I started out as a principal, I thought my job was to make sure that if something wasn't going correctly, and when I looked at negative behavior, that I had to raise my voice. I know better now. Raising my voice isn't going to help somebody who is in a state of alarm or they're in fear because of what's happening to them. They don't know how to deal with it. That just makes it worse. So when a child is screaming, or maybe they're trying to hit or kick, it's their way of kind of using fight and flight, or because they don't know how to calm themselves down any other way. So if you used a deep, loud voice then, that raises that up a little bit. Yeah, it raises it up even farther. So what you have to do then is, even though it's not the thing that we've always heard and always thought, you've got to bring yourself back from that. You've got to take the deep breath. You've got to make sure that you use that voice you use with a newborn child, or with the kittens or the dogs. You use that nice voice that helps take the fear or takes the anxiety away from a child. And man, it's not easy. But there's enough research now that says that's what needs to happen. Another thing that's really interesting that he talked about was how you don't even have to say anything. So as teachers or as a principal, just by my mannerisms, by what I do with my hands, where I like to talk like that. But if there's a stressful situation and a child is yelling or they're having a problem with behavior and I walk in there like this, well then that puts them on alert even more. So you have to walk in calm. And again, that's something I keep working on. You've got to walk into the situation and not overreact, because they pick up on that. Just like animals can pick up on, they have the animals that know when somebody might be going into a seizure.
Right.
they can, that chemical is given off. Well, we now know that happens between humans. So when kids see that in adults, that raises their level if you're having issues. Mm-hmm. It may not even be related to that. So there are just so many things that can cause that reaction from kids, especially if they've had trauma in their life. And we know that's happening more too. So, when you look at what makes schools good now, I guess the best thing to say is it's not just academics.
Right.
We have to get at all those other things that are happening behind the scene so that they can now think of academics. Mm-hmm. And I think that's our big challenge we have.
Right. All right. Well, I really appreciate you, Tom, going through this. I know it's a difficult subject sometimes to talk about because it's the whole child, and it makes teaching reading almost simpler. Because although it's not easy either, but when we're talking about social emotional, it's an interesting topic, and we know more and more about it all the time because of the brain research that's out there and the pictures of the brain that they've taken and been able to analyze.
Abilene Chiropractic and Sports Rehab, now open in Abilene, using a wide variety of techniques, providing elite care for athletes and patients in everyday life. Call, click, or stop in today for an appointment. Paws and Claws, pets, supplies, and grooming. Your one-stop critter shop at 312 North Cedar in downtown Abilene. Find that perfect dress that's just a little big? Have a favorite pair of pants that's just a bit too long? Alterations in Abilene can take in, let out, shorten, and more. Stop into their new location today.
Around here, we believe in local values like hard work, family time, or a fair price on reliable internet from a local company. That's why Eagle Communications delivers great local values, like a range of internet options to fit your family's needs. Fast and consistent enough to power everyone's devices at once. All at reasonable prices we're proud to offer our friends and neighbors. Ready for better internet? Give us a call or visit eaglecom.net and discover our local values today.
So we'll probably visit more about this down the road. We didn't get to everything we kind of wanted to visit about, but our time is up. So I just want to thank you for joining us, and that's all we have for USD 435 update.